There were probably at least a dozen Methodists on board, probably more than that, but we know of at least that many. There was a lady named Marjorie Newell Robb, who was also from a Methodist family on board. She and her father and her sister were all traveling first class on Titanic. Her father was lost. Her sister and she survived. She ended up living to be 103 years old and was the last survivor of all the first-class passengers. There were a number of other Methodists on board. Maud Sincock is one. There were several of the crewmen. There was Mr. Gibbons. There were a number of others from England that had been staunch members of the Methodist Church. Another Methodist on the Titanic was Robert Williams Daniel. Mr. Daniel was from a very wealthy family in Virginia. He had been raised on a plantation called Brandon on the James River. The family had been there for several generations, and at the time he was a fairly wealthy banker. He was traveling first class, and he had his prized French bulldog named Gamin de Picome with him, and the dog was in the kennel the night of the sinking. When the boat sank, somehow Mr. Daniel managed to get into a lifeboat, and also it's known that somebody let the dogs out of the kennel. Nobody is for sure as to who, but it was always rumored that he was the one that opened the kennel just so the dogs would have a chance. His bulldog didn't survive, but another man that was swimming in the water after the boat sank later told the story of coming face to face with a prized French bulldog, so the dog did make it into the water. In the lifeboat, Mr. Daniel met another survivor named Eloise Smith. Miss Smith had just married, and she and her husband were on their honeymoon and returning to the United States on the Titanic, and she was pregnant. Her husband died in the sinking, leaving her a pregnant widow at 19. Mr. Daniel befriended her on the lifeboat, and afterwards they became a romantic item and they married, the only marriage of two survivors as a result of the Titanic sinking. Mr. Daniel later became a state senator in the state of Virginia, a very prominent man there. His son also became a state senator in his stead. I might mention also that he and Eloise Smith, when they married, did marry in the local Methodist church there in the Richmond area, and he remained a Methodist and a staunch Methodist through the rest of his life.